computer. All right, we are recording, and this is the 4th International Freedom Cell call. Hello, I believe a bunch of people just joined us there. Can everyone hear me fine? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Yep, I see some thumbs up. All right. Okay, cool. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. I'm going to keep everything muted throughout the conference call, and then people can raise their hand or they can signal to me if they have a question. We definitely want to make this as participatory as possible. Please invite your friends as well, as we're just getting started. There's also a message room. 2 people waiting. Admit all. I wonder if I could just admit everyone as we go. There's a way to chat as well. You guys see how to chat there? Let me see. Where is the chat? Is the chat function available for everyone? Yeah, okay. I'm not seeing the chat. Oh, there it is. Hello. All righty. Now we're talking. Okay, so my name is John Bush, and you guys can hear me, yeah? Yes? Okay. All right, my name's John Bush, and back in 2015, hello from Belgium, or hello in Belgium. Back in 2015, I came up with this crazy concept of freedom cells, and it was just an idea back then. I gave some speeches, did some podcasts about it, did a little bit of writing, but didn't really take it too far. Derek Bros learned of the idea. Derek is a good friend of mine. We've been buddies for about 10 years now. And he really took the idea and gave it some legs and spread it all across the globe now. And we have an amazing website that also doubles as a social network. It's freedomcells.org. If you haven't registered there yet, I strongly encourage you to do so. That's a great place where we can network and socialize and build and organize. And there's over 2,000 participants now on the website. I think approximately around 2,040. Just 2 days ago, it was just under 2,000. So there's a lot of people that are joining regularly, and we're super excited for everyone to be a part of that site. So today I'm going to just give a little brief presentation about Freedom Cells, what they're all about, the promises that they have, and hopefully give some advice and strategies on how everyone can further grow their network in their area and how people can link up as well. And yeah, it's going to be great, and we're all going to have a good time. And I definitely would appreciate some audience participation and want to encourage everyone to work on growing those Freedom Cell groups in their area. So again, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm going to share my screen. Let me know if you guys can see it here. Let me share screen. There we go. No, not that one. This one. Share. All right. Is everybody seeing my screen here?
Yep.
All righty. Sweet. I'm going to unmute and see how that goes, actually. So just bear with me. How can I do that en masse? Participants. I see emit all. Mute all. All right, I'm allowing people to unmute themselves for now. So if you, let me get through this presentation, and then I'll pause for opportunities for people to share or ask any questions or whatever. We're just gonna flow with it here. So can you guys shoot? Let me share the right screen here. Here we go. Okay. All right, you guys looking at what is a freedom cell? Yes? Okay, cool. All right, so basically what is a freedom cell? This is the 4th international call that we've done, by the way, and there's a lot of people that are participating, so I want to welcome everybody. Okay, a freedom cell essentially is a small group of around 8 to 10 people that are working together for mutual aid to achieve common goals and secure the sovereignty of the group members. And then the idea from there is that the cells will organize and network with other groups, and then take that and organize a network with even larger groups to create eventually our own version of society, a free society where we don't have nasty coercion and hierarchy and control. The groups of 8 to 10 we call the inner cadre. Then when you link up other groups of 8 to 10, we call that a middle cadre. And then finally, when you link up the middle cadres, we call it a meta cadre. And like I said, the hope is that as this network grows in size, we not only become more effective at supporting and helping one another, but ultimately we could grow to where we have the strength in numbers to opt out of the technocratic society control grid. So this is kind of, so right now, like I said, there's over 2,000 people that are involved on the Freedom Cells website. I don't know that a whole lot of the people on the website, however, are organized in this sort of structure. And that's okay, because at the end of the day, when you have a good number of people that are all working together and are on the same page, even if we're all just in a giant forum, that's still beneficial. We can support one another, we can learn from one another, we can help one another. But I think that there's really a lot of magic in this particular structure, in this particular type of doing things. Man, does anybody, if there's any Zoom folks out there, do you know how I can just automatically admit anyone that comes in? Because I keep seeing that people are in the waiting room. There's a waiting room, but I'd like for people to just hop on into the call. Oh, enable waiting room. So I disabled the waiting room, so I presume that people are just going to join in. So we'll see what happens there. Okay, and then I can't monitor the chat with my screen right now, so if anybody has any feedback or anything. All right, so like I was saying, there's over 2,000 people that are involved on the Freedom Cells website and that we could say are participating in the Freedom Cells network. One thing that I would like to do, and one thing that I'm working towards in my local area, is building out the organizational aspect of the Freedom Cell network. Because as I'm going to discuss, I think there's a lot of value and a lot of promise in having the infrastructure built out in this way. Now, it's not a hierarchical way, it's not a top-down way, it's a decentralized, distributed, peer-to-peer sort of network that, in all reality, can take on multiple different forms and is supposed to be organic and fluid. So, as I said, the core of it is a small group of 8 to 10 people that we call an inner cadre. And so each one of these people, these ones here represent an individual. You link up with around 8 people of your closest friends, associates, fellow activists, family members, fellow coworkers, or whatever. And this inner cadre is most dedicated to mutual aid and supporting one another. We use the number 8 because of the work of this gentleman named John David Garcia, also Bob Podolsky, who wrote the book Flourish, which I had over here a second ago. He contributed a lot to that. And John David Garcia determined that a number 8 is the optimal number of people in order to achieve maximum creativity, right? And so what we're doing through these freedom cells is we're creating. We're not criticizing, we're not complaining, we are creating a new way of doing things, and we're creating a system, a network where we can support and help one another. So we're trying to keep that number as close to 8 as possible. But again, we're very fluid as well. So if it's just 4 people that you have in your area, or if you happen to have a group of 12, then that's okay as well. However, as you start to build towards a group of 12, 14, or 16, then it would greatly behoove your group to break into 2 groups of 8. And then those 2 groups of 8, of course, could be part of what we call a middle cadre. So one thing I want to talk about later in the call and have a conversation with you guys about is how can we encourage, how can I help you, how can we help each other to build out these inner cadre groups? From there, once you have your inner cadre, you're working together on common goals, life is good, life is improving, your life is enhanced, you're supporting and helping one another, you then encourage other people to develop and create these inner cadre groups. Once you have 2, 3, 4, ideally 8 inner cadre groups, We then link them up into a group of 64, which is called a middle cadre. And again, this can be 7, this could be 10. Sometimes I use the number 10 just because it's easy to see 10, 100, 1,000. So imagine you have 8 groups of 8 people that are all organized in a middle cadre. Now, of course, your small group of 8, it's ideal that it's in the same territorial area, in the same local area. It's easiest to render aid and support to one another, especially defense, although it doesn't have to necessarily be a geographic restriction. Now we have the age of the internet and everyone's interconnected and we have smartphones and all sorts of stuff. This doesn't have to take that form. And as I'll talk later on, there's a whole wide use of freedom cells or small groups. There's so many different beneficial use cases, from putting together a homeschool cooperative for your kiddos to an entrepreneurial network that's like a mastermind group. But ideally, this is something where everyone's close so we can support one another. So the inner cadre obviously is super close, hopefully like in the same neighborhood, same part of town. The middle cadre can be something that's local. And then the meta cadre is whenever you have 8 groups of 64 people. You have 8 middle cadre groups that link up to what we like to call a meta cadre. And again, this is what we are hoping to build towards. Right now, things are a little bit more fluid and a little bit more chaos, but we're hoping to work together to create this organizational infrastructure. For example, what I'm hoping to do here in Texas, I have a inner cadre group that consists of myself, my girlfriend, my former roommate, and then my parents, right? They're not as gung-ho with the vision of, opting out of the technocratic state as I am, but we do communicate regularly and we are working towards common goals, and we're talking about food storage, we're talking about how to respond to all this COVID craziness, so on and so forth. But so we have a bit of an inner cadre. I'll likely try to build one that's more with people that are like 100% on board with this goal and idea of creating a genuinely free society, right? So we have the inner cadre, then we'll have a middle cadre, which will be centered around Austin, Texas, or Central Texas, right? Then we'll network the various groups in Texas. So imagine this is 64 people here in Central Texas. This is 64 people in Dallas, Fort Worth area, 64 people in San Antonio, 64 people in Houston. Houston's where Derek Rose is from, and there's a ton of people that are involved in freedom cells in that area. And then we can all link up to a meta cadre here. Then we have folks, there's 2 people on this call. I don't know if Bob Podolsky's still in Acapulco, but I saw that he joined. But Michael Niemitz is in Acapulco, so we have a network down there in Acapulco. These guys are doing very similar work, building what they call holomats and octalogs, which we'll talk about as well. We have some friends up in New Hampshire with the Pre-State Project, Kansas City. So imagine the different state groups or the different area regional groups linking up and forming a confederation of freedom cells, right? I'm going to show you this awesome picture here. This is from Bob Podolsky's work, where he came up with octalogs. So essentially it's very similar. It's 8 people working together, and these 8 people are committed, supporting one another. They also have a communication, it's called amplification, where they develop and work on this communication process where they can solve problems, where they can get on the same page essentially and have more synergy within the group. But this is what he calls a holomat. And so each one of these, what is it, an octagon? Each one of these octagons here represents a group of 8 people, an octalog. And the way that he has it here, it isn't just people that are all in the same, that are all linked together, right? And this, I don't like to call this a hierarchy, because this isn't hierarchical per se. It's more of an infrastructure or an organization. This is more horizontal, if you can imagine. And these people in this octalog are taking on specific roles. So we can build towards something like that, where perhaps within our Confederation of Freedom Cells, there are doctors that take on a medical function. There are people that consult us on defense when we have our mutual defense compacts, so on and so forth. So this is something what that could look like. And again, this is what Bob Podolsky calls the Titania Society. And if you want to learn more about his work, I think that website is titanians.org. Maybe somebody could post it, Michael Niemitz or Bob, there in the messages. And his book is called Flourish. And so I would like to encourage everyone to get as deeply involved as you can. The first step is definitely to join the Freedom Cell network. you can go to freedomcells.org. Really great website that our good friend Neil Rademacher built out. And this is what the back end looks like. So first you have to register on the site, and people are constantly concerned about privacy and security. To that, you know, the first thing is, of course, the NSA can check out almost everything that we're doing on the internet. We do have encrypted chat. There's an encrypted chat function on the website. And then, of course, we also have a Telegram group. So let me pull up the messages here. And I need to up my my Zoom game because I can't seem to find where to put all the, where to message you guys, because I'd like to invite you to join the Telegram group. Let's see here. Recording, meeting info, no. Participants. I can message one person. All right, whatever. I'll get on that later. Maybe when someone starts talking, I'll figure out how to do that. So there's an encrypted Telegram chat, but then we have this Freedom Cells website. So this is what it looks like whenever you register. And the cool thing about this site is a lot of people constantly reach out to us and they say, hey, are there people involved in my area? Well, we created this map here. It's a member map. And another thing about the privacy, there's a lot of people like, I don't want to be on the website. How do we know you're not going to turn all that information over to the FBI? Well, I don't know. I think I have a pretty good reputation. I'm not personally going to do that. But at the end of the day, I also want to point out that what we're doing isn't illegal per se, right? I hope that one day we grow our numbers to the point where we can all opt out. And if there's homeowners, they can stop paying their property tax, for example, and then our mutual defense force comes and forms a human chain and defends them. That would be against the law, but then you could make an argument that those laws were unconstitutional, unjust, or whatever in the first place. But the idea is we're not breaking any laws, we're not doing anything wrong, we're simply organizing for mutual aid, for mutual benefit. And then at the end of the day, if the government wanted to come kill us or arrest us or whatever, they could probably do it whether you're on this website or not. And then it's kind of like this catch-22 where the purpose of the website is to organize so we can better defend ourselves from aggression, both private and public. And then fear of joining the website or joining this network makes it so where you're more vulnerable because you don't have this network and this infrastructure and these people to support you in place. But just want to throw that out there. But just check this out. Check this member map out. So you could put your area, or you could search your area, and chances are, if you're in a major city, you'll find that there's actually a good number of people. So these are all the participants throughout the entire globe. And it is an international movement. I'm here in the United States, so I live in Austin. So if I was like, man, I'm in Austin, Texas, can't find anyone that has like-minded views, I'd love to build these networks with them. You just kind of zoom in and see, oh, wow, it looks like there's a handful of people here in Central Texas. Some people in College Station with the Aggies. And then, of course, here's Derek Bros and his network and all the people in Houston, Texas. There's a whole lot of people here. So one thing you can do is you can go to find members. You can put your city or your zip code into this little map here, and then it'll pull up the people that are rocking and rolling. There's also cells here. So you can create a cell in your area, or you can join an existing cell. So I'm in Texas, so I'd search, hey, I wonder if there's already some people that are organizing and forming groups. Oh, wow, look at that, the Texas Freedom Cell Network, Northeast Dallas Cell, East Texas Freedom Cells, West Texas Survival Cell. So there's a lot of really cool stuff going on, and if you haven't yet, chances are you're probably already on the site, but I encourage you to join the freedomcells.org site. And then I'll link as well how you can get on the encrypted Telegram channel, and then we also have a Facebook page. A lot of people are also against using Facebook. For me, I'm going to leverage and exploit the platform until I get booted from it permanently. I've already been banned for 30 days multiple times for promoting kratom, of all things, a natural plant. But there's a lot of people on Facebook. There's a lot of people that are looking for answers and solutions. So in my opinion, we should leverage their network while also getting involved on Minds and on Float app, for example. And then this is some stuff for the Texas folks that are on the call. Like I said, I'm here from Texas, so I'm spending a great deal trying to organize the Texas Freedom Cell Network with the hope of other people doing the same in their area. And then we all converge to create our confederation of freedom cells. So for people that that are like, well, hey, this is just a little bit more about the inner cadre, right? So this is the heart, the foundation of the entire network is this inner cadre where people support one another. The inner cadre is the foundation. It's the most important piece of the Freedom Cell network. This is where most of the work, most of the support takes place. As I said before, the ideal number for an inner cadre group is 8. This is what encourages the most creativity, what allows for the people to be most creative. This is a logo that John David Garcia used. And as you can see, there's 8 units. He also found that the most creativity can happen when there's 4 women and 4 men, or when there's 5 and 3, vice versa, right? And then, of course, they all communicate and are connected equally. There's not one hierarchical leader. There's not a top-down hierarchical means of communication. It's all fluid, and everyone's on an equal playing form. Participation in the group is entirely voluntary. If you want to opt out, if it ends up not being your jam, then you're free to do that. Ideally, the group meets regularly, the group of 8, preferably once a week if you're able to. Just get in on a conference call, on your Telegram chat, at least once a month, I would encourage. And then it's advised that the group members work on decision-making, means of decision-making, like using consensus, for example, and then also effective communication practices. I think nonviolent communication is an excellent means of communication where you talk about needs and feelings, and having that out of the way and everyone agreeing to use some sort of decision-making process and everyone agreeing to use some sort of dispute resolution mechanism whenever there's disagreement, I think will avoid a lot of discord and conflict, which often breaks up these kind of groups like that. Can break up groups when people aren't working well together. There's inner cadre that can set common goals, and as I'll talk about later, there's a variety of different common goals that that everyone can set, and there's different purposes that these groups can carry out. Man, I keep seeing that. Can you guys unmute yourself? If anybody knows, if there's any Zoom experts out there that'd be able to tell me how to get to my chat. Oh, there's the chat. I guess I can't screen share and chat at the same time. Well, that's a bummer. Okay, cool. So let me finish the presentation and then we will answer questions, try to have a conversation, and rock and roll in that regard. Okay, so for people that feel like they're like a lone wolf, that's actually a term that the FBI and stuff would use about lone wolf terrorists, right? No terror going on here, only love and joy and peace and freedom. But for people that feel like they're all alone and they're having trouble finding people in their area, I just wanted to give some advice on where to look and where to start. So the very first place that you can start is within your inner circle, right? So you think of like permeating circles of trust and people that you know. So if you want to start with people in your close circle, like your friends, family, associates, coworkers, hopefully they share at least some common interest. They don't have to agree with you 110%, right? Everyone that's on this chat doesn't agree 110%. The people that you form a freedom cell with don't have to be like hardcore extreme wanting to replace the state with an entirely new social organization structure. Ideally they are, but it doesn't have to be that way. And then of course people can slowly but surely be brought along by educating them about the philosophy of liberty and the consistency of voluntarism, for example. Another thing you can do, as I showed before, you can go to the Freedom Cells social network at freedomcells.org. Again, a great tool to find people that are in your area. And if you're the only one in your area, go ahead and put yourself on the map. Not everyone actually uses their exact address, I should say, but you can use an address of a public building or something that's in your given area, and then people can contact you. Y'all can see if you vibe, build trust. We also recently added the ability to host meetups. So somebody put a coffee chat, which I think is super cool, coming up. There's I don't know what CC is, but this group's hosting a meetup. I don't know what city this is, so that's great. There's 4 people that are rocking. Quorum to confirm meetup equals 4 confirmed attendees. So this is a freedom cell here that's already building out a means of decision making, which I think is super cool. And again, it doesn't have to be like we all use the same means of communication, we all use the same means of decision making. As the network builds and as we communicate with one another, we can share best practices. Maybe consensus works best, maybe a supermajority works best. Although in my particular group, I prefer consensus, because then that's the only way to know that everyone is on board. And ideally, if you're linking up with people that are like-minded, it's easier to achieve consensus than if you have people that are libertarian leaning working with socialists, for example. That may not, it might be a lot harder to achieve consensus in that regard. Okay, so go to freedomcells.org. Another place is Meetups. I don't know how often, I mean, not everywhere is like a big city with all this freaking COVID stuff, but I'm sure there's still some meetups that are taking place. So libertarian meetups, voluntarist, activism, gardening, survival, homeschooling, unschooling meetups. And I say libertarian and voluntarist because that's where my philosophy comes from, but it's totally cool if there's more left-leaning folks, or if there's like anarcho-syndicalists or resource-based economy, zeitgeist movement type people, that if that's what you're looking for your particular group, then go out and find people of like mind. And then of course, Facebook has groups that you can join as well. There's other social media platforms. If you want to get hyper-local, you can use the Nextdoor app. And, you know, like I said before, it doesn't have to be that you're finding the people that agree 110%, especially if you live in a small town or if these ideas haven't permeated in your area so much. You can find people that are into survival, for example, and chances are they're a little bit more independent, skeptical of government. You can find people even that are into gardening, for example, and chances are that they're more into preparedness and survival and self-reliance, which are all good traits for what it is that we're trying to do here. So, and then finally, if you're like absolutely alone in the dark and you're living in like communist Massachusetts or something, although we probably have people in Massachusetts, then consider moving if you're able to. You can, there's this concept of voice and exit, so you can voice to try to change things, and if you can't change things, then just move. Or if you're all alone, you know, there's nothing wrong with making life changes. If you are a little bit more fluid, if you haven't established roots, consider moving to a hotbed like Texas or wherever. Or if you want to hop out, if you're tired, just fed up with what's going on in the United States of America, you go check out Acapulco. There's a hotbed of activists and voluntarists down there as well. So it does look like there's actually some people, quite a few people in Massachusetts. So there you go. No offense if you're in Massachusetts and you're on this call. So I just want to point out too that there's multiple different types of freedom cells, multiple different purposes for the freedom cell, and they can all really work around common goals. So the first ones that I always throw out, when you get your inner cadre, you set the goals of having 3 months worth of food storage, having an off-grid communication, like CB radios, for example, marine band, or at least having off-grid or encrypted. And Telegram is a great platform that I'd strongly encourage everyone to join. As soon as I'm done with the screen share, I'll share the Telegram group that we set up. Another goal would be to make sure everyone has firearms and knows how to use them safely and proficiently. Sometimes there's pushback on this. If firearms aren't your thing, that's fine too. Not everyone has to be exactly on the same page with everything, although I sure as hell like firearms and think that they have a lot of value in defending ourselves from public and private criminals. And then everyone works together on a bug out plan. So if you wanted to get a group together with the goal of survival, these could be some common goals you set up. If you wanted to get a group of parents together and you want to take your children out of public school because you are already fed up with it, and now with all this new normal stuff that's going to be taking place in public education, you could set the goals of working together to find a curriculum and buying one. The different parents could rotate who's teaching the kids. Y'all could go together on group field trips. There could be a parent support group where you share advice with one another. Even outside of just education, parents can work together. They can rotate childcare so the folks can get some alone time with their significant other, or just time to themselves. Weekly play date, the group goes together on little trips or camping trips, the parent support group to help one another. There could be a spiritual growth freedom cell where you meet once a week to talk about your demons and your dark side and what you're doing to overcome all that. Y'all can do group yoga, meditation. It could be a Christian thing too, group Bible readings. Then you have accountability partners that check in and make sure everyone's staying on top. They're quitting drinking, for example, and they're working for self-improvement. Y'all could take trips together to different spiritual areas. Buddhists could go visit India and Tibet and stuff, or whatever. There can be health and wellness freedom cells. This could also be a freedom cell that has the multiple goals. So for this quarter of the year, we're really going to focus in on health and wellness. And then we're going to move over. All of us have really been wanting to get involved in entrepreneurship, for example. So we're going to lean our freedom cell into setting entrepreneurial goals, setting up a mastermind, reading some books together, doing a book club, for example. And then some people aren't into this, and I know maybe this is antithetical to the whole freedom cell thing where we want to replace the existing institution, but small groups of 8 can be utilized in order to influence government to roll back all the controls, so on and so forth. So these are all just ideas that I wanted to share with folks. And then I also want to let you guys know that I'd like to make myself available, but I encourage you to communicate with me through the Freedom Cells website just to foster more action there. You can find me, John Bush, just search in the members, John Bush, add me as a friend, and then message me. And if you have a group, then I'll join the group and I can help to build out this infrastructure. I can help to set common goals. I can help in any way that you may need help. So one of the things that I can do, that I want to do as a Freedom Cell ambassador, is really dedicate a whole lot of time to working one-on-one or 1-on-8 or 1-on-4 or whatever with groups in your area to help encourage, inspire, promote, educate, and encourage you guys to build out this infrastructure. So eventually, you guys up in Minnesota or over in Houston or down in Acapulco or in Australia or wherever, I think there's someone from Belgium, we can all network and link up, and eventually we'll have a confederation of 150,000 people that are all collectively working together, and we have a non-territorial social organization that can benefit our lives in many various different ways. So I believe everyone is unmuted. If you want to unmute yourself and ask a question, I'm going to go through some of the messages as well, but I would like to open up the floor. If there's anyone on the page that has a Freedom Cell group, or I know there's a woman named April that has a group up in Dallas. I think I saw you join. We'd love to hear from you to kind of get some inspiration so people can hear what's going on in different areas and kind of learn from that. So does anybody have any comments, questions that they want to throw in? I see April there. April, how are you? Anybody? I mean, I could talk for hours, but we're not going to go. Nathan wants to say something. Everyone should be able to unmute themselves.
Hello.
Oh, hey, Nathan, how are you?
Good to hear from you.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah, there is a global unmute setting where you can pick and choose. I do not know where that is because I usually am not the host. I'm the participant. But hello all, hello from international land. But yeah, this is my first call. I'm very new to a lot of this too, and I'm just now actually getting in touch with someone from my area. I'm from New Jersey in America, and I really enjoyed the new website. It's very streamlined. I really appreciate that, and it makes sense. I feel like the whole point really is to not really like hang out, post things about stuff that we've been seeing. It's more like getting involved and being with each other and being in communication with people within walking distance. I would actually determine like if it's within 20 miles or 20 minutes of driving, I think that's okay. But my ideal, I'm an idealistic person, is within bike distance. That'd be something really cool. Cities are really good for that. But yeah, like I've been wanting to do this for like a couple of years now. Every time I heard it, I mean, I met Derek a couple of times in Acapulco and in Philadelphia, and it's been really good to pick his brain about a lot of things and stuff like that. So overall, I'm really excited to meet up with I think his name is Andy, somewhere else about 20 minutes from where I live, and see if we can actually get that, or get on a call at least, or on a Zoom call, or hook up on, like you said, Telegram. I'm pretty active on there as myself on a couple groups. But yeah, like I'm personally just got hand skills. I'm a physical labor kind of guy. I'm not really like that, learning about herbs and stuff like that, but more of like I get things done, like about physical work. I heard a lot of people talking about working on organic farms.
Yeah.
That's woofing, and that's pretty cool. I haven't done that before, but it's like international travel exchange groups and stuff like that. So I really appreciate that kind of work myself. So but yeah, so I'm just really excited to get involved, and I'm excited for everyone wanting else to get involved, because I've seen like a lot of like a big shift ever since COVID started. Everyone
Yep.
wants to either get involved on the internet and stuff like that more often than other people. And before, now it's more out of urgency. I feel like there's a lot of urgency going on now.
Yep.
Oh
Out of
yeah.
necessity.
Yes.
Cool, man. I'm on the New Jersey map here,
Mm-hmm.
and there doesn't seem to be a lot of action on New Jersey. I
No.
presume if you sign up on the website, one of these is you.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm more the close to New York
okay, right on.
border.
Cool. And is the other little pinpoint spot I see the guy that you're
Yeah.
talking about that's 20 minutes
Yeah.
away?
There's two of them. There should be
Cool,
two.
cool,
Yeah. And
cool.
so we started talking. He's out there. He said he couldn't make the call, so I'll give him the sit rep on what's gonna happen and stuff like that's going on the
Right
call.
on.
So got a bunch of people on, 46 people, and
Yeah, I appreciate everyone for joining. I'm
yeah.
gonna record the call's being recorded as well,
Oh
and
yeah,
we'll
that was
turn it over to the FBI as soon as we're done. Okay, sorry. I'm a humorous guy. There's some people that are really serious, so maybe they don't like jokes like that. But and then you could share it with your pal there in New Jersey.
oh
I would also
perfect.
recommend setting up a New Jersey cell,
Okay.
and then other people that join in, they'll see like, hey, we're in New Jersey as well, so people will kind of be inspired to see that there's other folks in their
All
area.
right. Yeah, and
Cool.
I do a lot of I know a lot of people out in Long Island, Manhattan area, as well as some people from Brooklyn, and then I know from South Philly, and maybe some places out in New England area, a couple places. So
Right on.
yeah,
Cool. All
yeah,
right,
we'll
Nathan.
do.
Appreciate it, man. Somebody asked earlier if it has to be, you have to have 8 people in order to be an intercadre. And the answer is no. Again, 8 is an ideal number. But if it's just you and 2 people or you and 3 other people, then by all means, call yourself an intercadre and try to link up with other intercadres in your area. Okay, cool. So people are raising their hands. So let me see if I can unmute you guys there. So there
Hello,
we go.
can you
This
hear
is
me?
AP. Yeah, go ahead. I can hear you now.
Hey, thanks for all that you're doing. I love it. And I've had I did join. I'm in Long Beach, California, and there's a freedom cell in Los Angeles, but I started one. It's only 2 of us so far in Long
Right
Beach.
on.
I posted a link in the chat to something called Informed Neighbor News, which I think could be a vehicle to promote freedom cells as well. And my hope is that people can print out, I'll post it again because it probably went out, it probably scrolled off the screen. But it uses a lot of stuff from like Larkin Rose and James Corbett and different content creators that are trying to raise awareness. And the whole idea about it is it's only front and back. It's one page. I'm walking my neighborhood in the evenings with 10 in my hand and just passing them out to whoever I see, and just
Cool.
basically saying, hey, can I leave this informed neighbor news with you? And some neighbors have been putting their heads together, and this isn't something that you're going to get from the mainstream news blasting all out at you, and it's just something different and fresher and better. And my hope is that we can get every zip +4 has a couple people doing this, and then we can connect with each other a lot better than using the the controlled social media giant platforms, Facebook and YouTube and so forth, and kind of drive people the way that we want to drive people toward freedom folks. So I'm having a decent experience with it so far. This is a format, anybody can use this format and kind of put their own little local spin to it. But I do think that there would be real power in taking this nationwide, and who knows, maybe worldwide.
Great. So you said it's a physical pamphlet?
It's something. It's something that could be printed. And I just print it on my printer. I print 10 of them every night and go walking out in the neighborhood.
Right on.
And so it avoids. you know, I don't trust Facebook. I think that Facebook does everything that they can to keep people local from connecting, keep people local of like mind from connecting. And so, and how many people are just out there, you know, with their TV on, you know, 3-4 hours in the evening, not on social media, and just going, you know what, I'm sick of this crap. And then, you know, but they read the newspaper, and we know how controlled, you know, the newspaper is. It's, you know, anything that's a billionaire owned platform is spun. It's spun in favor of the billionaires, and it's trapping the people. And I do believe strongly that there's a number of people in each of our local, very local communities that you know, is wondering, you know, hey, there's got to be something more than this. And then you get something like Informed Neighbor News, you know, land in your hand by somebody who you know, says has a nice greeting on an evening walk, and hey, maybe I'll look at this, see what's into, you know, what. And it's not going to be for everybody, but it should be for the type of people that we want to connect with.
Sure.
And you know, we get enough people to connect locally, then that could be very, very powerful. We can build this stuff up in a you know, super fast. So anyway, that's you know, those are some thoughts. I'm actually on it right now. It's actually a Google Doc, and I could see that a number of people popped up. You know, people show up as anonymous you know, animals in Google Doc. I don't know if people are familiar with Google Docs, but that's what you see in the top right of it. And anyway, you know, that's an idea that I had, and I think it could be helpful.
Okay, cool. Thanks a lot for sharing, Art. I didn't even mention that as far as how to find people. You know, just walking your neighborhood is an extremely powerful thing to do for sure. And you'll be able to find people if you share ideas, even if they're radical. You'll see that, you know, eventually people will be like, hey, that actually kind of resonates with me. So I really appreciate that. And that's like the really nitty gritty grassroots action, is walking the neighborhood. You can even walk the neighborhood, you flyer and knock on everyone's door, and you host a little bit of a meetup. I remember doing that. You know, that was the strategy back in 2007 when I was working on the Ron Paul campaign. And you would go to everyone's door and talk to them about Ron Paul, and then invite them to the Republican Party precinct convention that was taking place. And so there's no reason why we can't do that same thing, but instead invite them to a little social, maybe have some cocktails or some lemonade, and you sit and just talk about freedom and stuff.
Yeah,
cool.
Exactly. Okay, well, way to go. And thanks for everybody for the comments. And you know, I see about 10 people on right now that weren't there before. So it seems to have some good interest. And again, most everybody has a printer, and, you know, it'll print front, back, and it's just one page. And that's kind of the idea around it. Keep it very simple. And I don't know if one a month is sufficient, or, you know, one a week is sufficient, but, you know, maybe there's if some people would like to help me out with it, you know, maybe we can come up with some ideas. There's also a Facebook group called Informed Neighbor News, and you can link to that at the very end of it. And,
okay, cool.
Okay, cool deal. Hey, thanks.
Hey, thanks a lot, Art. Appreciate it. All right, April, let's hear from you, April. I think you should be able to unmute yourself. You are in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. You have a property and some people that you guys have a Freedom Cell with there.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So we're about an hour east of Dallas, in a small town where phone reception is not that great. So I do apologize if there's a delay or it cuts out. That happens frequently. But yeah, so gosh, we've probably had our unofficial Freedom Cell for the last almost 4 years now, pretty much since we moved to this area from Houston. Not until, you know, more recently did we start calling it a Freedom Cell, but prior to moving out here, I started going on Facebook groups and we'd always unschooled our kids. So that was something right away that I started looking for people in this area. 4, and I did utilize Facebook to find groups. And so right away when we moved out here, I started attending co-ops. Naturally, I'm kind of a really talkative person, so got into multiple conversations about our beliefs, which at that time had already formed. We had an experience that had happened to my husband about 6 years ago that took me from what most people call a normie to diving down all the rabbit holes and discovering all of the craziness that's going on. So anyways, I started having these conversations with other parents, and that's how we started forming the relationships that we have. I was driving from where we're in Ben Wheeler to Dallas, which was an hour every week to attend this co-op, where I got tired of that and ended up starting to host one at our property. And so that brought in a lot of families. Again, kept having these conversations. Those conversations helped us weed out some of the people who were not going to be a good fit. Be it this was at our personal property, you know, we wanted to make sure that these were like-minded people. So just being open about that stuff helped with that process. Now fast forward to 4 years later, we've really narrowed it down to 4 or 5 solid families that we meet with frequently. We kind of do the things that you've posted about already. We're definitely very big on food preparation. Kids are the focus of our group. Gosh, amongst our group, we probably have 15 kids, 15 to 20, because some are 18, 20, whatnot. But
All right.
that's definitely the sense of it. And so food is very important. That's a lot of mouths to feed. Many of us do have properties. Because we're out in the country, we're not, you know, walking distance, but a 30-minute drive is nothing. I mean, you just expect that living out here. So we're all within about 30 minutes of each other. Many of us have properties, and we'll do project rotations at other people's properties. We've built an outhouse at one person's. We've come to mine, fenced the whole garden, planted 100 cucumbers, and got that done in like 2 hours. So that was really exciting, because I have young kids. I have a 1-year-old, a 4-year-old, and doing something like that by myself would have taken forever. So I've really found the value in gathering people together to knock stuff like that out. Yeah, I mean, we focus on a lot of stuff. We have CB radios. We right now we're focusing on getting away from Facebook. We have it as kind of a homework amongst our group on everybody submitting the alternative social media sites that they like and recommend and why, and then we're going to discuss which one we're going to basically all jump to. Yeah, and we're looking right now. I know I saw in the comments talking about wolf farmers. That's essentially what we're looking for right now, is to bring in some additional people to some of our properties in exchange for living, that they would help out with the animals in the garden. And then from there, it can kind of be a vetting period, if it could be a long-term stay or, you know, temporary, nice to meet you, and move on. So that's kind of what we've been working on.
Right on. Wow, it sounds like y'all got a lot of really cool stuff going on there. And you were on our Texas Telegram network. So you said, how many families did you say were involved?
I say 4 to 5. There's a newer one that we're still kind of getting to know better. 4 solid families. Because we have so many kids, we do lack some of the organization, and I would say that's where we're struggling the most. I almost feel like we could benefit from some sort of consultants to kind of help us. And John, you had mentioned that as an option on how to get a little bit more organized, because some of our gatherings, yes, we get a lot done, but conversations, when we try to have serious conversations, when you have 15, 20 kids at one given event, it's broken up over a long period of time, and it can be a little bit hard to get some structure stuff done.
Cool. Well, yeah, I would love to help, and we're already connected through the Telegram chat, so I'll make a note here to myself to link up with you and see what we can do to help get things better organized.
Right on.
All right. Well, thanks for all you're doing, and thanks for sharing. You guys are out there setting a great example for what we can do and how this can achieve, especially with the property aspect. I'd love to see like a confederation of intentional communities that are all spread out all over the globe and then concentrated in given areas. And there's a whole lot of like-minded people in Dallas-Fort Worth as well. So thanks for sharing, April.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so I figured out how to unmute, but I'm not going to unmute everyone because then we have issues with all the mics. So the new format will, if you'll just raise your hand, I'll go to you. So we're going to go to Joshua next. And I saw Bob Podolsky in the chat had something to say. There's somebody, McKinney, I think, also wanted to ask a question. So just raise your hand, and then I'll be able to keep track of everyone. Well, raise your hand on the Zoom call, not physically, because then I won't be able to keep track of that. So, yeah, there's a little function. You just click raise your hand. I think it's where you press the 3 dots. So, all right, we're going to go to Joshua. All right, you should be able to unmute yourself, I think. Go ahead, Joshua.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for unmuting me.
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm glad to be a part of this call. I've been following the Freedom Cells since there was a little, like a collaboration video or something to that effect that Derek Bros had done with James Corbett. So not too much, maybe like 6 or 7 months. I just wanted to offer some criticisms. I don't know if you guys are open to hearing things like that.
Sure.
Just a bit about my experiences. I've done several work exchanges in my life. I want to say that it makes sense that people who are living off grid are, into anarchist philosophy or are not down with the technocracy, but that's incorrect. Everybody who's living off grid isn't somebody who necessarily thinks that society has major problems to the point that they would be willing to, ally themselves with radical philosophy. And that's been my experience of going to people who did have resource dependence and them having political beliefs and beliefs about the world in general that I found to be pretty uninformed. But of course, me being a guest there, it's not necessarily my place to criticize people in their place of living. So yeah, my criticism is definitely just towards the whole concept of Freedom Cells. I think it's a great idea. It's functional. It helps get people together. How I see it is as it's kind of like the Derek Bros fan club, basically. And that's basically what I think many of the people are there for, right? Is following the work of Derek Bros and what he's been talking about and campaigning for. But I think that the functionality falls really flat. And of course, it's still young. But there's many sites out there that basically offer the same function to people like Wolf, Workaway, HelpX, Intentional Communities, Eco Villages. There's a number of different websites that are actually, they have communities of people who have land ownership. They have resource independence, And the biggest criticism that I get extremely frustrated about is the lack of security culture regarding Freedom Cells, because it's on the open internet, and no, you're not discussing doing anything illegal. Nobody is discussing doing anything illegal, but we're very much skating on that edge of talking about people need to be arming themselves. They need to buy their own land and stuff. And, basically gain sovereignty. This history doesn't show that
Talking about this
is
for
very
20
well.
years. I haven't been thrown into jail for encouraging people to arm themselves or organizing protests or
No,
driving
my
up
point
to
isn't that you're going to be thrown in
distribution
jail for what
centers.
you're doing, but I would hope that there's some steps being taken towards security culture and, kind of operating with some measures in place, so that, because the way that I see it is, if somebody is sitting in on your website, it just gives them a watch list of people who are very into Derek Bros' journalism and interested in acting on it, and that's not necessarily a guarantee, but it's a possibility. And I think that people should be very aware that that's the world that we're living in right now. And to deny that reality, it's scary stuff, and of course there's no perfect way. And honestly, having privacy and security on the internet is it's luxurious, because you need to have very high computing knowledge to really be able to know how to do stuff like that. I don't. Those are the criticisms that I wanted to offer you, and to see if you guys had any thoughts about, evolving in that direction towards getting a little bit more serious about privacy and security. Thank you.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. First, I would like to say if this is in fact the Derek Bros fan club, then I would gladly sign up to be the president because I am a fanboy of Derek Bros. He's been a colleague and a peer
I
of
am
mine
too.
for 10 years. But I just appreciate it. We're trying to create a leaderless movement here, right? But Derek Bros is a popular personality because he's everywhere, he's committed, he's active, and he's a great communicator. So he
I
invited me
agree.
recently to be on his channel, the Conscious Resistance Network, and that has helped to amplify my voice. So all throughout history, there's been inspirational figures and leaders. I don't want to put Derek Bros on the same level with Jesus Christ, but I'm going to use Jesus Christ as
Put
an
it there.
example. That was a person, right, who was very powerful, charismatic, who had teachings that resonated with a lot of people. And then Christ, some will say that he's still with us, some will say he's no longer with us, but the historical human being created a movement that's lived on, 2,000 years later. So I don't have a problem with a lot of people being brought into this network just because they like what Derek Bros is doing. But as you can see, Derek's not on this channel. I should have said that at the beginning. Usually he's on these calls. He's at a Houston anti-mask protest thing. So I'm taking charge of organizing the call. But we still go on with or without Derek, and Derek will just continue to lead by example. I think is the most important thing. He's not only talking the talk, which a lot of people do. There's a lot of people that share ideas. There's a lot of people that blog and do videos, but he's out there really building and growing. So I think he's an inspiration. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And like I said, I'm a fanboy, even though we've been peers for 10 years. As far as the security culture, we all have different risk levels when it comes to how edgy or how extreme we're willing to be with our activism. For example, whenever I had kids, they're 7 and 8, I got arrested when my daughter was 1 or 2, and that was the last time I've been arrested since then. I completely shifted my activism to one of like in-your-face, cop watching, more abrasive, to pulling back, entrepreneurial, and now trying to help to organize this network. So we all have different risk levels. We also have different levels that we're willing to put ourselves out there to the world. And for example, I use Facebook. You just saw me using a Google Doc. Everything that we do on the internet can be accessed by the NSA. It's even possible that they've broken through Telegram's form of encryption, for example. I'd like to think that they haven't, but they very well may have with their supercomputers and stuff. So at the end of the day, it would be a massive barrier to organizing if we were, due to concern of the NSA and the federal government, the FBI, knowing everything that we're doing, if it were to stop us from leveraging these platforms like Zoom over the internet, then I don't think that the cost of communicating openly about these ideas, I don't think that the benefit that we get from this communication platform, the risk of if I'm probably already on a watch list like 20 years ago for my activism. It's just all about our individual risk assessment. But we do, that's why I encourage people to join the Facebook group, which obviously is totally controlled, and everything, even every message you send on Facebook is put through a massive meta-analysis where they don't even need human beings to track and analyze it. But we also have the encrypted Telegram channel. So whether Telegram's encrypted or not, or whether they can crack that or not remains to be seen. But like I said, if there's ever anybody that comes into one of these calls or comes on in the Telegram channel and starts talking about destruction, Molotov cocktails, doing what Antifa or these tactics that a lot of these left anarchist groups will do, black bloc, so on and so forth, then I'll be one of the first people to call them out and remove them from the group, because we're not about destruction, we're about creating. And again, it comes down to people's risks. I remember back when I first started doing my own little internet radio show, and we were on the pirate radio station here in Austin, Texas on 90.1. I thought that my door was going to get kicked in because I was talking about 9/11 truth, back in 2005 or something. That never happened. And then as my activism went on, and like me and my ex-wife started visiting the Department of Homeland Security fusion centers and driving up on the National Guard base where they had their information and intelligence sharing apparatus, and we started handing them open records requests while filming and getting kicked out and stuff. I still didn't get locked in a gulag, you know? So my kind of fear of being taken away because of sharing and doing all this stuff slowly, subtly started to go away. And now the beauty is, I think that there's so damn many of us that it's going to be very difficult to shut down all the people. There's people with an even bigger, now they can shut them down on YouTube. They can deplatform, for example, but that's why we're really emphasizing building these personal networks and really getting that human connection. So I appreciate the concern. And if you want to go in the comments, we're going to go on to some other folks that have their hands up, but if you'll share any other platform, I know people have been talking about Wolf. If there's any other platform that you think we could benefit from, or that may perform the function that we're trying to perform with Freedom Cells better. And again, it doesn't have to be a mutually exclusive thing, right? Like wolf farming isn't a ideological anarchist, replace the state kind of thing. It's like, come farm and let's work together and we'll put you up, so on and so forth. So, you know, it's kind of apples and oranges in some ways, but I appreciate your concern. And for the folks that are concerned about the encryption, I would encourage you to exclusively communicate on the Telegram channel. And then if anyone is genuinely concerned, also share with us how we can better encrypt our communication. Neil Rademacher is the web designer, and we're constantly trying to improve the privacy of that platform. Eventually, when this grows, perhaps we'll start bringing in money, raising money for the purpose of advertising and bringing more people in, but also for the purpose of having to have a totally encrypted website and the Freedom Cell social network on the back end of freedomcells.org. If we could somehow have that totally encrypted, that would be great as well. So I appreciate your critiques, and that just helps make us better, man. So thank you so much. All right, we're going to go to Bob, and then there's a couple other people that had their hands raised. Bob, how are you? I think you got it. You should be able to unmute yourself now.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, good. Well, I'm following this with great interest. I'm really happy to see you doing what you're doing, John. And I'm delighted to see so many people and that you've gotten so far on implementing this very strategic methodology. So I also wanted to, John, would you mind sharing that diagram of the holomat again? I want to point something out on there, if I may.
Yeah, sure. And for those not familiar, Bob Podolsky wrote this book, Flourish. He's been doing a lot of work with octalogs, and he worked hand in hand with this guy, John David Garcia, that I think really laid a lot of the groundwork for a lot of these ideas to flourish, pun intended. So give me a second. I'll share my screen here.
Great. Appreciate it.
Okay,
we're going to the diagram.
There it is. Does everybody see that?
No, I don't see it yet.
Can other people see it?
The holomat diagram. I think you need to scroll to go to it.
Well, can you see my screen, Bob?
I see the screen, yeah. I don't see the diagram, though.
Oh, I'm sharing the wrong screen. 1 second.
Oh, okay.
Here we go. Share screen. All right. Share this guy. How about now?
Yes, that's it. Okay, cool. What I want to point out is that a couple of features here, because the methodology is so similar. Where you see two octagons touching, there are two octalogs that have an ethical contract between them. And I have a template for and a set of instructions for making ethical contracts. But the assumption is that within each of these groups, people have come to some agreements, ethical agreements. And between groups, there are ethical agreements. You'll also notice that some of these groups of octagons or octalogs overlap. So the one on money and business overlaps with the one on education because they have two octalogs in common. Similarly, between individual octalogs, you might have individual people in common, people who belong to more than one octalog. I also wanted to point out that down on the 1, 2, 3, 4th level is a holomat about security. So I want to point out that some of us care very deeply about security, and it's partly a matter of the uses of encryption. It's partly about protocols and procedures that enable people to stay private. I am setting up a website too that will have some common functionality to yours, and it will have allow people to register using a pseudonym. You don't have to use your real name. Just a little bit more privacy by using a pseudonym. But you notice that there are all these different commonalities of purpose in these 13 groups here. And there's one in the middle that's covered. And that simply acknowledges the fact that as long as we have a hostile environment surrounded by governments that want to control us, we better have some privacy about the overall protocol that we're using. In other words, we're going to have some secrets from government. So there's a covert section in the middle there. And that's part of the security thing that one of you was talking about earlier. Security is a very important thing because if we are successful in forming such groups as this one, by the way, I'm planning on populating this diagram this year, and it's nominally has 576 people in it, 8 people to an octalog. We multiply by the number of octalogs, and you got 576 people. But it's my intention to populate this year, and if we're successful, sooner or later, we're going to be noticed by the people that NASA report to. And when we're noticed, first we're going to be ignored. Maybe that's what's happening right now. Then we're going to be laughed at and made fun of. Then we're going to be attacked, and we'd better be ready for that attack. And then we'll win, assuming that the Earth isn't turned into a radioactive cinder in the meantime, assuming that we actually survive. And while I have some concerns about that, I'm moving forward, as you are, with the assumption that we're all going to survive this crisis that's coming to a peak. Not yet at the peak. It's going to get worse before it gets better. Thank you, John, for showing the diagram. I also want to give everyone a heads up that I'm going to be putting together a little questionnaire for groups of people that are organized in non-hierarchic ways. And I'm thinking of people in sociocracy and in holacracy and in freedom cells, octalogs. And as someone else in the group said earlier, there's lots of groups who are attempting to form ethical societies one way or another. And what I plan to do is to pass around a questionnaire, because I want to know what features each of these groups has that are already in place and in common, and what features have some implemented that the rest of us might benefit from. In other words, these groups aren't all the same, and some are more advanced than others, some have more know-how than others, and I am proposing that we share that knowledge so that every one of these groups has access to the best and most current information available on how to do what it is we're doing. So John, I'm going to be in touch with you, and I'm hoping you will help me out by distributing this questionnaire to people who might be interested in providing the information that it requests.
Sure.
So that's it for me today. I'm really, really happy about what's going on here. I see that a couple of my local colleagues are present. And by the way, when it comes to these groups, if a group is physically together, that is every member of the group can sit in the same room, I call that a natural octalog. Could be a natural freedom cell. And if it's at a distance where you're communicating as we are now, then it's a virtual octalog. both are valid, both are useful. Some have characteristics different than the others, and it might be worthwhile for people to figure out what those are. So that's it. I feel heard, and I thank you for letting me rant at you for a few minutes this way.
Right on. Thanks, Bob. This is Bob's book, by the way. And so Bob is a valuable ally and colleague. He wrote this book, Flourish, an Alternative to Government and Other Hierarchies, where he lays out a very damning critique of, I think what he calls the Borg, right, of the bank, organized religion, and government. And it's just in a really straightforward way. And then he talks about what a true ethical society is all about. And then my favorite part is where he gets into the nitty gritty of, again, very similar overlap. And of course, we're all going to network into hopefully the same broader society as what Bob's working on with the octalogs and the holomat and stuff. So definitely check this out. It's on Amazon, or I think his website's titanians.org, right? I'm going to put that titanians.org in the comments. Okay, we're going to go to the other folks that have their hands up, and then if anybody wants to comment or has a question or wants to network or whatever, just raise your hand. I think you press the 3 little dots there, and then you could do that. Somebody asked what type of meeting do they think should be held in the beginning. I definitely don't think you should use Robert's Rules of Order. If anybody's been involved in politics, that is not a fluid way to do things. Ideally, if it's an inner cadre, right, or an octalog or a group of 4, 6, 8 people, it's small enough to just have a fluid conversation and to let the conversation flow, right? Take notes. As the groups get larger, then some communication mechanisms would be good. But the cool thing about the decentralized Freedom Cell network is that you can have a group of 8 that works together to make a decision, and then they transmit that decision that they make, preferably via consensus, to one of their delegates, for example. So imagine you have 8 groups of 8, which is 64 people. Each one of those groups of 8 has a representative, which then can form a sort of council. No, not a city council. There's nothing coercive about it. They are just it's an easier way to make group decisions and cohesion and stuff. And then it's this group of 8 that can brainstorm or work together or bring to the table, the council, what the decisions were made. But again, at this point, I believe, for the most part, the Freedom Cell Network, we haven't yet broken into the middle cadres and the meta cadres. And at this point, if you just have a group of 4 people, 6 people, 8 people, my advice would be just to have a fluid conversation and not to put any type of infrastructure on the conversation, because I would worry that that could kind of be a limitation to just the fluid sharing of ideas. All right, let me go to somebody that had their hand up. Tysa, you should be able to unmute now. Tysa Roman, are you still with us? Ask to unmute. All right, Tysa, well, I'm going to keep your hand up.
Yes, okay.
Oh, there you go. How are you?
It did it. Yay, I'm good.
Great.
Thanks for having me, John. Thanks for having me all. So I am in Dallas, and I do kind of have a concern about just finding people who are going to get engaged, and I appreciate Art for his pamphlet to hand out. And one of the things that our group here has done in Dallas is a few of us have got together and we actually completely cleaned an entire fishing hole. And we came up with 12 bags worth of garbage and trash and junk. We dropped the ball, as in, right? We didn't really advertise to the people around as what we were doing. But you live and you learn. So I guess like the thing with Art, him having that whole kind of mailer thing to give out to people, I'm so appreciative of. That would have been so great to take with us. And it's also, I guess we figured it's a good way to find people who may or may not be like-minded, but approach them in a way that's easy, non-threatening, and, just informative. Another thing is with Joshua and his concerns, I definitely get that. I am personally a felon, and so therefore, to uphold personal responsibility in what I believe in and what I intend to do and how I want to live my life, I will not break the law. And I appreciate that. I mean, even Derek does preach. He's not telling anybody to go out there and fuck shit up, just live according to definitely meditate. I use my own self-healing. I listen to myself and what I know to be okay for me. Do I think there very well may be subversives on this call? Quite possibly, looking to take me down specifically or anybody else just for being here. But I don't have to follow that because that's not what my greater spirit tells me I have to do. So I guess that's it. And I'm in Dallas, by the way, so I look forward to meeting up with April someday.
Cool.
Yeah.
I just shared a link to the Texas Telegram group. So if you don't have Telegram, you can put it on your phone. It's an app, or you can download it on Mac or Windows. And it's a great platform. It's really easy to make groups and to communicate with people. So I would strongly encourage you to join that group. April is on that group, and you guys can link up through there, or if you haven't, joined the freedomcells.org website so we can all stay in contact. And it's, as you can see, I'm down here in Central Texas. I got my little cell. There's so many liberty activists in Central Texas, and I've been pounding this idea. Well, actually, I just started pounding this idea heavily just maybe in the past 2 months or so again. Before it was just more sparse, but I'm trying to organize them. So then we link up with you guys up in Dallas, and we actually, are going to start having a good 60, 70, 80 people, which is a pretty good force to be reckoned with, doing peaceful stuff, of course. And I think Tysa hits on something good. We're not going to do it on this call, but maybe I can do a YouTube video and share with you guys. And it's all in our best interest to research the counterintelligence program that was utilized in the 60s and 70s, and it most definitely didn't go away. But there's a methodology that agitators and agent provocateurs utilize, and it's, we're not the type of anarchist group that is about destruction or smashing windows, black bloc. So it's really, someone's going to stand out if they come in here and start talking about breaking things and Molotov cocktails and taking people out, so on and so forth, right? So I think that one of the cool things that Bob mentions is he talks about interpersonal conflict and how we all have trauma, right, from our childhood, and how that carries on to discord and tension within our adult relationships. And so one of the cool things that we can do as our inner cadre, and then as we network together, is to preemptively put in place communication principles, preemptively talk about, inevitably we're going to have conflict. So whenever that conflict arises, whether it's making a decision on how our group's going to move forward, or if it's interpersonal conflict, we're already going to have a mechanism in place to deal with that. Conversely, just the same, if somebody shows up and it's obvious that they're an agitator or whatever, it'd be a good idea to already have a way to deal with that. And one of the cool features of a Freedom Cell network is, so you have a group of 8 here, then you have another group of 8 here, and you have another group of 8 here. Now, so say you have a little middle cadre with those 24 people. One of the people within this group of 8 starts talking about violence, and they're always angry at the meetings, and they're real agitated, so on and so forth. So people from the other groups can be like, hey, Freedom Cell number 2, we wanted to talk to you about one of y'all's participants in your inner cadre. He seems to be really angry and upset, and he talks about violence, so we're going to encourage you to talk to him. Maybe he's just pissed off. Maybe he needs some healing. Maybe we can talk to him about meditation. Maybe we can get him some kratom. And but it's possible that this guy actually has some ill intentions. So we're going to put it on you guys, the other 7, to work with him to figure that out. And if this continues, and if you guys can't get that in check, then we're going to disassociate from your group of 8. And if the group of if the 7 people are genuine and they're not FBI agent provocateurs, and this guy turns out potentially to be one, then they can kind of insulate away from him, remove him from the group, and continue to coalesce with the other 23 people. I want to point out another thing too. One thing I learned early on, there was all this talk, everyone was paranoid in our activism, like 5-10 years ago. And we'd always talk about that guy's a Fed, this guy's a Fed, so on and so forth. More often than not, they just turned out to be assholes. And whether it's someone that's an a-hole, a jerk, has a chip on his shoulder, is generally destructive because whatever the hell happened in their life, or whether they're actually an FBI agent or a federal agent, it still has the same ramifications for the purpose of the group. So let's all be aware of that. And I would think the first instinct would be curiosity. And if it is someone that's just genuinely pissed off and misguided, for example, then as compassionate fellow human beings, we could try to work with them. But if it becomes, this isn't an open society per se. While everyone is welcome to come see if they want to be a part of the society, or everyone's welcome to, see if they can form up with other people in an inner cadre and then eventually join up with other inner cadres. This is more like a private society. So if there's people that are acting out, if there's people that are abusive, if there's people that are harmful, we can push them out of the group. So I do think it's important to do what we can to try to coach them up, to help them, to offer tools and spiritual guidance if that's your thing. But at the end of the day, if they just aren't open to examining their own faults, like Bob also says, like, people get defensive whenever you start being a little critical or whenever you try to offer feedback. And if someone's just not willing to take that feedback, not willing to grow, like I hope we all are willing to be vulnerable and grow and humble ourselves, then there's no problem with just shutting them out of the group. And if there's an inner cadre that insists on keeping that problem member involved, then we can isolate, we can just shut off that particular inner cadre, and the cell can just continue to move on. All right, Doug McKenty, I saw that you had asked something, I think, in the messages before. I'm gonna go ahead, Doug.
Hey, how's it going, John? Thanks for having me.
Good, yeah, thanks for being here, man.
I guess I just have a couple things to say. I've done a lot of political organizing. I'm in Northern California, Mendocino County. We use the community rights concept a few times to try to pass some local ordinances here to empower the local community. It's basically about getting counties or city governments to pass laws that circumvent state and federal preemption, and saying our community has the right to pass whatever laws we want to, and you can't stop us, kind of thing, and then fighting them in court. So it was a good, it's a good idea. It was worthy of doing that work. And we used a lot of the same like communication techniques that you're talking about, the consensus, which is difficult in larger groups, but I like if you break it down and keep it in groups of 8, it's totally possible. We used to manage phone meetings where we would just make a list of somebody, like you kind of like you're doing now, where you'd raise your hand or make a list of people, and then have each individual be able to express themselves until we could come up with, a concept that could achieve consensus among the group. And that's how we ran our political campaigns. So it was a great experience to have that. I guess I just want to touch on what people are talking about security. I think kind of like what you're saying. I mean, if you get out there long enough, then you probably are on a list. I used to do local radio here, and one time I was on the air and I was talking to the president of the American Communist Party, actually, because he had written a constitution for after the revolution, right?
Okay.
And I thought, well, hell, it'll be interesting to talk to somebody who's written a constitution, just to open people's minds to the possibilities of living under different kinds of governments. And so I'm talking to this guy and I ask him, and we're live, this was a live show on the air. And I asked him, well, is the FBI listening to you, or you think your phones are tapped or what? And he goes, Doug, there's a really, really good chance that they're listening to us right now. And I was just like, well, all right, I guess I'm on the list. And as long as you're nonviolent, I don't think I mean, what, you know, and I don't know. I mean, what are you going to do? You can either do nothing or you can participate. Um, and I don't think they're going to come for you unless you're really starting to organize some kind of violent, you know, have some kind of violent methodology coming on. I mean, it's just like when it comes to something like this, like what's on my mind, and this is kind of the other thing that I wanted to get to, is for me, this is mostly about economics, because at this point, with the coronavirus thing going on, and I know Derek's been covering a lot about this. I think he just came out with something about the social credit scores on Last American Vagabond. So we've got the, you know, potentially the vaccination passports or the social credit thing coming our way, where we won't be able to travel, or we may not be able to spend money as long as we haven't conformed to certain dictates, maybe the mandatory vaccinations or whatnot. And so I'm just wondering, like, if I can't go to the grocery store and I can't spend money on my bank card to buy food, what am I going to do for my family? And that's where something like this is coming in for me, where it's like, okay, well, I can organize my 8 buddies and we can all have different gardens, and some of us can, you know, depending on the microclimate, some of us can focus on what grows best in their particular microclimate. Some people can grow different medicinal herbs. I've got a friend that, like, I have a big, you know, I can produce alcohol, and I have a friend that has, you
It's a
know,
good friend to have.
some spigyrics, right? And we can make medicine pretty easily. And so then, you know, having an organization like this is more about trade for me. Well, like, I have this kind of medicine, but I need, you know, this other kind of stuff. Maybe if I can connect, if my group can connect with that group in Sacramento or down in the Bay Area or up in Humboldt County, you know, then we can have these kind of underground trade routes where we don't have to deal with the technocracy to get the stuff that we need.
I love that.
You know, I guess that's where it's coming down for me. I'd like, you know, I'd like to work with you guys, especially as you grow into like you were talking about it, how do the councils meet? Like, just brainstorming about where does, you know, if I was going to organize one for my area here, and I have a bunch of people, I have people in mind. It's difficult because here, everybody's really progressive. And so I've been constantly struggling with the left-right paradigm. I'm actually from Texas myself. I grew up there. And I'm libertarian. So that's where I come from. But everybody that I deal with almost exclusively around here is pretty much left-wing. So I'm always trying to figure out how to communicate beyond the left-right paradigm, so we don't get trapped in all of that, which is so common, and it's kind of frustrating. Maybe that's even worthy of some kind of brainstorming session. It's like, how do you get around that? Because people are so ingrained in that conflict. And I'm ready to just ditch the whole thing. Like, look, you know, it's all about food and medicine. I don't care. These political conversations are so, I don't know, they're passe or boring, or they just accomplish nothing getting in these kinds of arguments. So being able to transcend that as we kind of organize this, so it doesn't just become a left-right thing or language to use where it doesn't devolve into that. Because a lot of people who are left-wing, like, again, around here in Northern California, they're still totally into making their own medicine and living sustainably. You know, I mean, I have a lot in common. As long as I don't talk about economics, you know, we're pretty good to go. And we all hate the corporations too, you know, it's like, so
not that far off.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess that's probably kind of what I wanted to say. Again, like, for me, just boiling down to the economics thing. I'm seeing in 6 or 8 months, I don't want my family to participate in the contact tracing. If there's a mandatory vaccination coming, which looks that way, right, then I don't want to have to get that. And so how are we going to live if we don't get those things, so we don't participate in that system, and then we can't go to the grocery store, or we can't use the bank, or I can't get to the money in the bank anymore? So it's just looking like helping to develop actually like an underground economy where we're trading food and we're trading seeds, and we can make our own medicines and we can trade. And I can have this connection between my group here and, again, like the group in Sacramento or the group in the Bay Area or whatever, to where once a month we can just, you know, maybe send somebody out and we can, you know, we can trade. We can learn what does your group have that I need? What do I have that your group needs? You know, how can we help each other out?
Yeah, man, you've said a lot of really important stuff, and I do appreciate the economic side of things. And we do see a growing technocratic state. And I was following along in the comments. I see Joshua saying, like, in the technocracy, there won't be sovereignty, and everything that we're talking about will be illegal. Well, it's, as of now, there's not sovereignty, right? We have degrees of sovereignty, but there's a whole lot of control.
Right.
And the whole purpose of this, and this is something I used to be left-right paradigm and was against Bush, so I thought I was a Democrat. And then Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats took over the House, I think in 2006. And so I was like, and then they didn't stop the war, and they were going to defund the war. And I was like, wait a second, I was on y'all's side. And then I learned about Ron Paul. But as far as the left-right thing, if we just focus on, like, it's not a political movement. It's not about left versus right. It's about how can we come together and help one another. And if we don't agree on economics, then that's fine. Let's go play in the garden together. Although economics are really important. And the beautiful thing, too, is what I see is, I'm a voluntarist libertarian. I'm a free market anarchist. And I very strongly believe in those ideals as well. But with this whole freedom cell thing, I try to make it a little bit more politically agnostic, because if there's some left-wingers, for example, that want to get involved and they're like anarcho-socialists, or they are resource-based economy or whatever, then by all means, we don't have to go into business together per se. They would probably object to me even being in business in some regards. But we could still trade seats with one another, or we could still unite against police brutality, for example. But yes, one of the ideas of this early on was to build an alternative means of social organization that isn't just like a social club. It's not just like a defiance thing, but in reality, it's to build a network that can replace the existing means of social organization, which is government. And so, like you said, when they turn off your fucking immunity passport, or they say you can't travel or you can't go into the grocery store, it's like, man, we haven't been in the grocery store for 3 months now because we're growing some really great grass-fed beef that we're trading amongst our neighbors. And yeah, that really is what it's all about. And I would encourage people, I know it's easier said than done if you have roots or if there's financial barriers, but when it comes to stuff like mass vaccination, I think there's areas where that kind of thing isn't going to fly. I have a good feeling that there's not going to be mass gun grabs in the state of Texas, for example. And I have a feeling that the state of Texas wouldn't comply with, even if there was a federal mandate to do vaccinations. I think there's some political jurisdictions that won't comply. We even see some sheriff's departments that are like, don't be a sheep and don't wear the mask, and there's the Constitutional Sheriff's Peace Association or whatever it was with Sheriff Richard Mack and stuff. So for some of the people that are in areas like California, which is a very totalitarian state, Massachusetts, I referenced earlier jokingly, New York City, I would encourage, if you're able to, and if things continue to progress as they are, consider fleeing to one of the more free states where perhaps there are more people that are willing to take a stand. But then again, I am forever the optimist, because as the state continues to push harder, there's always a counter reaction whereby more and more people get pulled out of the matrix, and they're like, wait a second, this just isn't right. And somebody said at the onset of the call, one of the first people we heard from, that they see things are escalating and more people are wanting to get involved with this COVID stuff. So they do have a lot of guns, and they do have like a mass mind control going on over a giant contingent of the American public and the global public. But at the same time, there's a lot of cracks in their facade, and those cracks can be exploited. And so regardless of what they do, like, we need to decouple from what they're doing and focus on what we can do. And I learned early on when I stepped away from political activism, the political activism was always a reaction to the government and the deep state, or as we used to call it, the shadow government's plan. We were constantly playing catch up and reacting to their program. But I think it's time, and what we're doing here with Freedom Cells is building our own program, right? And taking charge of our own destiny, because regardless if they have an immunity passport or not, the system still sucks. The banks suck, credit cards suck, the food that you buy at the damn grocery store, they're not going to let us in, sucks anyway. So, you know, let's just do our own thing. So yeah, I really appreciate that, Doug. Thanks for participating. Are you on the Freedom Cells website, Doug?
You know, I just checked it out. I do my own podcast, so I'm wanting to put a link up on my website, and kind of connect with you guys, because I'm thinking about really starting to support this more and more, because it's just, I mean, like you're talking about, I live in California, so it seems like it's pretty serious. The mandatory vaccination thing. I mean, we in Mendocino County haven't had one COVID death. If I walked into a store without a mask, you wouldn't even believe what would happen to me. It's everybody around here is hardcore, and you know, they're hardcore about the vaccination issue as well. I ended up leaving my local radio station over censorship. Absolutely. Wow. Things that you could not talk on the radio about. Yeah, pretty interesting. I mean, it's been interesting living up here. I mean, honestly, I'm starting to try to be in communication with Derek about going down to Mexico eventually, because I think getting away, I mean, you're in Texas. I have family still in Texas. So, you know, fortunately it seems a little bit more, you know, of a liberated atmosphere down there. But I think the whole of the United States is really, you know, coming into some dark times unless, you know, people start to wake up to it. And at the very least, you know, this kind of underground movement organization that you're talking about with the Freedom Cells, you know, is an option to say, hey, I'm just not going to participate, you know?
Yep.
And I can still take care of myself and my family and my people. Right. So
heck yeah. Back to the roots. Cool, man. All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Justice Brianna, I don't know if you were trying to get my attention earlier, but please raise your hand so I can know to go to. You just click on the 3 dots, I think. Thanks, Doug. All right, I'd like to wrap the call up at 7, so I'm gonna shut my mouth a little more, and let's try to get through all these calls here. So, Paige, I think I'm gonna go to you, Justice, because I saw you wave at me earlier. Go ahead, and again, we got 23 minutes left, so let's make sure we can get everybody an opportunity to share. Go ahead, Justice.
Hi. Hi, I'm from the San Francisco Bay Area. I'm out in the East Bay, and I've just recently learned about the whole Freedom Cell movement. I didn't know anything about it so recently, so I'm just kind of jumping in, and we've already got a bunch of people, even in my own family, that are organizing separately. So now that I have this kind of blueprint, sort of, so to speak, I think it's just going to be really helpful for us to just kind of organize our own thoughts, basically, because I've been looking for something like this, honestly, for over a decade. When I first found out about, you know, 9/11 stuff and whatnot, that's when I first started having an awakening. So I've just been connecting with people in the Bay Area, and I actually was part of I went to the Mission Dolores Park on a busy day, June 13th, for the Expose Bill Gates Day. And there were tons of people there. I mean, there's just a lot of people that were actually really supportive of the sign I was holding and walking around the park with, but I was like the only one there. So there's just really a lot of opportunity, I would say. People aren't aware of the different options that are out there for them. So that's why I really appreciate you guys so much and all the work that you guys are doing. And yeah, I noticed last night when I was getting linked up with the other Freedom Cells in my area, there's a couple actually close by already going on. So we're going to be meeting on the 4th of July.
Awesome.
So yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining. And I'm so glad that it sounds like you were in this space and looking for something. So I'm so glad that you found us and that we're building this here, because there's so many other people that are like, what are we going to do? They're looking for solutions. Exactly. And I hope that just each other is the solution, right? Cool. Right. So thank you so much, Justice. We look forward. Join the everybody join the Telegram chat so we can all continue the conversation throughout the week and stuff. Okay, Max, we're going to go to you next, my friend. Max, go ahead. Hey, Max, how are you?
Pretty good. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear. What's on your mind, bud?
So I'm in Seattle, Washington, and I've been part of Freedom Cell group in Seattle for Washington State, and I haven't met with anybody yet, and I've been pretty new to the freedom cell thing, and I've always been into like spirituality and like being like out of like not really into the mainstream narrative, because I always see that they're like kind of like, my intuition always tells me that there's always some sort of pitfall to what's in the mainstream narrative. Like for instance, like cancer like research thing, like people were like donating money to cure cancer or whatever, when like there's already a cure to it, and they just don't want money. They use like treatments that don't work on purpose, so those in that industry would get money. That kind of like pisses me off, that people don't really see that it's just a money ploy, you know, and many things are just money ploys, just not really actual like solutions to certain things that they claim they have a solution for. And sometimes it's really scary to it's kind of like it's really like scary to like go into somebody's minds to see why people from a hierarchy, from the top of the hierarchy, would do something like this to us or whatever. And to me, like how I see it is that from their point of view, it's kind of like it doesn't matter, or like it's not like a big deal to them. It's like to them, it's like, you know, it's normal. It's like what they always done. It's like it's not even control to them. It's like something that is normal to them, and they don't really see the effect they have on other people. So that's kind of like
psychopaths.
Yeah. And it's like they don't know that they're being bad, what the effect they're doing. They're just kind of like doing it because they want money, you know, they want profit and things like that. And it's kind of scary. And the fact that somebody who could commit to such a evil thing, or not evil, but like a negative thing, right? Or a negative agenda, right? Could be coming from somebody who looks like a normal person, or like looks like somebody who is like, doesn't really, from their mind, is like something that is like whatever, you know. It's kind of scary. And like for now, like I've been into that alternative thing since junior year. And since junior year, I had my experience like with awakening, with opening my third eye and things like that. And I don't really believe in the political party thing. I think that I found out that it's just about like how there's no political party. When the more higher you go, like political party is a system of like control for them. It's how they control others. If people are divided, then they don't come together, you know. And that's why the political party exists, for my opinion. I think it's just a method of like control from people that are on the top. And I think it's all about working together. And yeah, so I don't really have like a political party or anything like that. It's not my thing. And I don't follow like a certain like narrative or whatever. It just I want to know what works for me, or like for others too. So like, yeah. And I'm 22 years old right now, and I'm in Bellevue College. Yeah. And I really like appreciate that this thing exists, so that people could, and like for me, like it's so scary that people don't really see that it's all like fake. It's like it's completely a money grab. Like it's not something that is it's completely organized for money, and people don't see it. People don't want to think critically about it, and it's scary how controlled everything is. And I just want to get out of that, you know. It's my fear is that I'll be like forced into like submission to these authorities, and I don't want to be in that position. So yeah, it's kind of scary, and it's really nice to like talk to you guys. Yeah.
All right, Max. Well, hey, we're really grateful for you to be a part of the community, man. And it sounds like you're a young guy and you're ahead of the curve before a lot of people kind of hop onto these ideas. And you're absolutely right. There's a lot of people that don't care, and it is scary. And some of them are motivated by more than just money, because a lot of them are, you know, they're part of the Federal Reserve Network, and they can create money out of thin air, and they income tax people out until they're blue. Unfortunately, there's some of them that have more dark and sinister aims, that really want to harm a lot of people and control a lot of people. But that's why we're all here. And anytime that you do experience fear, I have found that building community and being around like-minded people really helps to overcome that fear. And it helps with security and protecting oneself as well. So we're all here for you. I invite you to join the Telegram group and join the back end of the Freedom Cells site as well. And if you have any other thoughts real quick, we got a lot of people that are raising their hands, so we'll try to get to them.
And also, what I think is that trauma from childhood experience is the reason why people go to certain like ideologies and like negative agendas and things like that and want to harm others. It's because it's not that they're evil, it's just that they have like childhood trauma in their childhood experience that caused them to view the world in a certain way. But they're not, they're very vulnerable. They're in a very vulnerable position. That's what I think. They need to heal that trauma so that they can go past it. That's what I think.
Right on. All right. Thanks, Max. Thanks for being a part of the community, man. Stay in touch, okay? Okay, I'm trying to go in order of where the hints came up. So we're gonna go to Paige, and then we're gonna go to my main man Paul down there, and then we'll go to the rest of the folks. And again, we got like 15 minutes or so. We can go a little bit over 7, but I don't want to go too far over 7. So Paige Ferris, we are going to you. Paige, hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Great. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, I was on the last call. I think you were there. Derek was mostly, you guys were kind of co-leading, but I just wanted to say perhaps a few simple things that might put people at ease. And if it doesn't, that's okay too. But, you know, I don't know any of you. So if something sounds offensive, that's not my intention. It's no worries. I just like to get to the point. So with the dragon lover sentiment, you can come, you can participate, you can leave. I think that I mean, I'll be 52 in September, and I've been on this earth enough to know that, like, I never felt comfortable voting. And I always knew that I had intellectual capacity. Both my parents are very intelligent in their own ways, of course, like, divorced. My dad votes Republican. My mom votes Democrat, you know. But Derek showed up on a cameo. Like, I don't know how many of you have followed along with Anarchapulco. Anyway, he basically said, I'm from Houston and I am doing this Freedom Cell thing. And then I started hearing about you down the line. And he said, I would like to create a intentional community in Mexico. And that is of deep interest to me because I speak the language and I've traveled there. And I'm starting to feel like not a complete misfit, but a higher level misfit than I've ever been, and I already started that way. So I guess the point I wanted to say is, like, now is a time to really trust your gut, your intellect, your heart, your soul, everything that gives you the intelligence that informs you. And so it doesn't mean, you know, everyone goes to Mexico, or it doesn't mean, I mean, the Freedom Cell, I think, is such a great thing. Real time, like, I know this is virtual, but the reason I show my face is I believe in making real connections. And so if anyone wants to try and get a hold of me and chat, and we'll figure that out. But I just wanted to say, I have become far less afraid, or even not afraid, because you're either living every day or you're slowly dying. And I just arrived at a moment where I was like, I want to live. I want to celebrate. I want to connect with people. I trust my boundaries. I have a voice. I want to feel empowered to use that voice. So I'm just so grateful that this is growing, and I want to make practical applications possible to grow this. That's all. Thanks.
Cool. All right. Thanks, Paige. Where'd you say you were from again? What area do you live?
Minneapolis, the town where
Oh yeah,
this town started. Yeah.
There's if you, I don't know if you're on the Freedom Cell website yet, but on the back end there's a lot of people that are in Minneapolis and the Minnesota area. So
yeah, I think I noticed that, you know, whatever, 6-8 months ago, but I'm sure there's a lot more now, so I will follow up and check that out.
Cool. All right, thank you so much for being with us. Next, I was going to go to Paul, and then we'll go to Danny after that. Paul, how the hell are you?
Hey, John. Great. I'll keep it short. I know you guys are trying to wrap it up. I just want to say to everyone, I'm from Sydney, Australia, but now a political refugee. Very, very grateful to be living amongst the magical Mexicans. Yeah, all of you guys are welcome to come down here just to see what we got going on as well. Like, take a break sometime. I know that Derek's doing some great work down here. So is Bob Podolsky over in Acapulco. And yeah, a lot of good stuff's going to be happening. Now, what I just want to say is I've been at this game. It is just a game. I've been at this game now 20 years, 15 years full-time in, just basically totally focused on activism. Haven't had a family, haven't done all the fun things that I had planned once I woke up to 9/11 in 2004. That was it. I just was like, this is all that matters. I can't raise a family in this situation now, you know, and then I changed direction. But I just want to say I'll definitely join the Telegram group, and I really I urge you all to make sure you join the Telegram group and join Freedom Cells. And I've noticed, like, there's only 3 people in Mexico, and there's not many other people who are actually pinning themselves on the map. So I've pinned myself on the map for Mexico City. You can find me on the freedomcell.org website. And please, all of us get on there and just support the work that John and Derek have put in to build all of this up. And then we can all network there. And I think Telegram is going to be one of the easier places for communication. So I'll jump on there as well. But there's so much good stuff going on. And I started out really shy and insecure and scared and fearful, like you guys have mentioned, you know, feeling some of those emotions. And really, like, once you start to break free of all of that, you really start to live. So I'll just second that, what Paige just said. It's such an amazing feeling. And you actually finally come to life. I mean, I'm more fearful of being fearful because you're actually dead. When you're in fear, you're not alive. And when you can conquer all that, when we conquer our fears and even the fear of death, it's actually ironic that that's when you actually start to live. And I've noticed that. So, you know, having I'll leave it at that, but I'd love to chat with you more. And there's a lot of great projects unfolding here, you guys in the States. And but I've seen nothing like Freedom Cells. I've seen nothing like what you guys have, what we're all a part of right now. So this is so inspiring. In 20 years of seeking people like you guys, I have not seen anything like this, which is kind of weird and bizarre, but that's the reality. So we're it. So let's make it happen. Thanks a lot, guys. Thank you.
All right. Thanks a lot, Paul. Paul's doing a lot of great work. Great person to organize with. And yeah, there are, it's not reflected on the site, but there's a good number of people in Mexico that have done the expat thing. And there's a lot of people in Acapulco. Paul spent some time in Chadon, which is a wonderful story. We should talk more about what they've done. So it's not all peaches and cream down in Mexico, and it's more of like a dangerous liberty thing. But for people that are fed up with the control and the, you know, hardcore top-down socialist communist thing that's coming out in America, Mexico's an option. One thing that I want to spend more time on that I'm going to do in the next year and a half, I'm trying to really focus on saving up some money. And there's a small group of us already. We're going to try to get a little plot of land here in Central Texas. I know Bros is talking about doing that in Mexico. April has a plot of land. She's talking about inviting people out. And I really see the whole intentional community thing, especially if it's out kind of on the outskirts or away from the big cities and the big controlling areas, as a really good way to, you know, to pursue freedom. And then if we can link up all of the different intentional communities and all the different pockets of our like-minded people, I think there could be a lot of special stuff there. Okay, I think Danny is who we're going to go to next. Danny, how are you? Danny. Thanks for joining us
pretty
today.
good.
Hey.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you just fine.
Yeah, look, I just first of all, thanks for doing all the work you guys been doing. And yeah, I just wanted to offer, you made a point a few people back about um, there's always counter forces when the so yeah, there's a lot of people that are getting sucked into it, but there's a lot of people that are getting pushed out. And I mean, seriously, I've been talking about all this crazy truth shit with my friends and my family and coworkers, pretty much just getting laughed at for years, and now they're coming around saying like, this seems right. People are sensing that the things happening right now are just not natural. So there are certainly cracks, and it's time. I mean, things are. I wanted to offer encouragement because we are more powerful than we understand, and we are. I mean, we're backed by forces of nature that we don't quite understand at this. Just helpless little creatures. We're a force to be. So, just good luck to everyone who's trying to get shit done, because we're making things happen for real.
Heck yeah. All right. Thanks for the words of encouragement, Danny. And you're right. We are up against a whole lot, but we have truth on our side. We have light on our side. We have life on our side. A lot of the people in power, especially the people behind the scenes, they operate through darkness and deception. And I think that we're at an advantage because they necessarily have to utilize deception, and like they can't just be like, we are free, we can just be. They have to try to manipulate people and all sorts of stuff in order to carry out their agenda. So that can only get you so far. All right, David, we're going to go to you next. David, can't say your last name, not going to try it, but go ahead, David. How are you?
Mass check. Yeah.
Mass check. That's easier than I thought.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is a really cool concept. I actually live in a housing co-op
Cool.
here in Houston, actually. And after spending quite a bit of time in Central Texas, I think I ran into you when you went to Texas State way back when.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, and so I went off to Latin America, did a bicycle tour down there, rode through Mexico and all that good stuff. Yeah, I like the idea of like intentional community, and I think that's that number is really good. I live with 10 people in a house, and it's right at that limit of, okay, there's too many people, the breakdown in communication happens. So I think that's super awesome. But I don't know if anyone's lived in or knows about co-ops, although they're full of lots of interesting people and sometimes libertarian leaning folks. There's a lot of just sort of like, the religion of the left, for lack of a better word. I don't want to be too ideological or whatever either. Yeah, it's a little frustrating sometimes when it's just like there's one correct answer that they espouse, and it's sometimes you have to like not really talk about what you think or believe until you build a personal relationship with these people, and then once you bring out these different ideas about just not kind of going along with whatever their favorite politician is, then they're more receptive once there's a personal connection. Yeah, to be honest, not that I try to be a contrarian, but I do like the idea of skill sharing and sort of like investigative journalism and a lot of that sort of thing. I mean, personally, I don't necessarily ascribe to the hard no vaccine or no mask sort of thing. I think I find myself more in the middle of like they maybe should necessarily be, mandated, but I think they're a good idea. Vaccines, I think, the ones that have been established, I think are legitimate and have saved lots of people from polio. Though the new ones coming out, I think it's going to take a little while before these actually become, effective and safe. And so, yeah, and so, I mean, I guess I don't know. I kind of joined here out of curiosity and hoping maybe just make some connections and to become a part of a community. I just don't know if my general skepticism on both sides of these sorts of things is something that is kind of a no-go for a lot of folks here. I mean, I remain extremely open-minded about all these things and could theoretically be convinced of that all vaccines are bad, I guess, theoretically, just, out of the pure philosophy of always being open to new information. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of put myself out there and kind of see what the group thinks. And I don't know who else is involved. I know Derek is also in Houston. I haven't had a chance to talk to him much other than actually like on his campaign during his mayoral race. But I don't know how many other folks are out there or open to collaborating and what their thoughts are kind of on my views and whether it's whether there's sort of like certain things that y'all are pretty firm on and or whether it's more of a fluid collaborative movement of like, being skeptical of the government and their in my mind their willingness to use a legitimate pandemic to further what they always wanted to do anyway, which is to further consolidate control and power over us.
Cool.
So yeah, I've done enough talking. I just kind of like maybe to see your feedback and what others thought as well. Certainly open to information, criticism, and all that good stuff. So
yeah, okay, cool. I mean, so me personally, I'm 110% natural health. I have 2 children, they're 7 and 8, and they haven't had any vaccines. In fact, my son cut his finger and had to get stitches recently, and the doctor was really pressing hard for the tetanus shot, even though he cut his finger on a clean knife inside, no dirt, no rust, no nothing to be found. But that doctor was like, man, no, tetanus is everywhere. And I'm like, wait a second. But I don't think, I would prefer to associate with people that are hardline when it comes to coercing other human beings and forcing their views upon other people. So for someone that thinks that some vaccines do some good, I personally don't believe that, but it's like a equal liberty thing. As long as there's so many people that are so zealous about vaccines that they are okay with forcing it upon other people, I think that's a problem. I'm all about conversation. I'm all about learning. In fact, there's a guy on the Conscious Resistance Network YouTube channel. His name's Isaac Lindeberger. I think that's his last name. And he's actually doing a series of videos right now where he invites 2 opposing parties when it comes to vaccines. He must be really obsessed with vaccines because it's like a whole series just about vaccines, but he creates a space for rational discourse. And above all else, I think that's what's lacking these days is the ability to have a human conversation where you're not shouting over the other person, you're not getting offended or triggered and defensive, and people just sharing ideas. So I think what we're uniting around here with the Freedom Cell thing is the whole idea of community, of freedom, hence the name, and trying to build alternative means of governance, right? Maybe there's this inner cadre group that wouldn't have someone that's okay with vaccines because they're so vehemently opposed to them. Although I think that would probably be in the minority, but that's okay too. We don't all have to agree is something that I'm trying to convey. Although I would like us all to agree on the non-aggression principle, the idea that it's wrong, unethical to initiate violence upon other people, right? That's not to say we can't engage in self-defense. So I appreciate you joining us, David. And yeah, get involved, join the Telegram group. Definitely link up with Derek. He's in Houston right now. He'll be back in Mexico soon. But I appreciate you coming on. I think we only have 2 more people that wanted to say something, then we're going to wrap up. And again, I want to invite everyone to join the freedomcells.org website if you have not yet, or join the Telegram. The Telegram channel group can be a little more fluid conversation. The Freedom Cell website has groups and cells and stuff like that. So join us. Let's continue the conversation. All right, we're going to go to Francesca, and then we're going to go to Raina, and then we are going to just have a couple quick closing thoughts and hope everyone has a beautiful, wonderful day. Okay, so Francesca, are you with us? You should be able to unmute yourself.
I'm mute now. Can you hear me?
We can hear you now. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Hello, and just wanted to say that's I'm very keen on the freedom cells, and it's a great initiative. And I'm networking a lot with other organizations. I've been involved several years in making a better world, but with some difficulties. I'm very worried. We are in a very, very dangerous times. We are basically at war. There's a war against humanity, and I think we have not much time to do something about it, and because it's really a tyranny, and we are against some really bad forces. I created a website. I posted. I'll post it again, maybe the link where I'm putting. Copy. I'll post it down. Since there is so much going on, so I'm trying to organize all the informations in one place. And also, if there are any events, I'll try to find out and put them on the website.
Okay.
So that, and there's a lot on the homepage, but a lot also in the menu, other links, videos, corona virus, and etc. I'm in sort of north of London, so in the UK. At the moment, not with many people around, so I'm more working online and connecting online rather than in person. Although there is a quite good group in London of like-minded people, and so it's. I don't know. There's also a freedom cell in London. We haven't really done a lot connected very much, but there is one. But I've seen most people today were you're in the other side of the Atlantic. Everybody. Yep. So. The last thing I think is important, but there is something about localization, basically strengthen community, growing our own food, and I like what Doug said about doing medicinal plants. I mean, it's all very important. Become as much as possible independent and not buying all this food with pesticides and poisons. And so anyway, well, that was just, I wanted to connect. And great, thank you for what you're doing. And hopefully, we'll get stronger.
That's right. We're stronger already. Thank you for joining us. I checked out your website while you were talking. It looks like there's a lot of really good information on there about COVID especially. So thanks for joining us from the other side of the Atlantic. And it's good to know that y'all have a group. Feel free to reach out to me on the Freedom Cells website. I just shared my handle on Telegram. I think for people that aren't familiar, you have to, thanks again, Francesca, you have to download the Telegram app on your phone, or you can download it on your desktop computer. And then once you have it downloaded, you can follow those links that I've been dropping there. And that's how you can join the group. It's a great way to communicate. And again, a lot of people are on the Facebook, I'm sorry, the Freedom Cells website, freedomcells.org. That's another way to communicate. So we're going to go to Raina, and then we are going to end the call. I'm going to drop that. Raina, I think I just put your hand down. 1 second. There she is. Asked to unmute. Okay, you should be able to unmute yourself now.
Hi.
Hey, how are you?
I'm well. Actually, I like to say hola aloha because I'm now living in Mexico, but I moved here from Hawaii. So,
oh, right on.
Yeah, so I am on Freedom Cells. I was guided to a video that Derek Rose made about why he moved to Mexico and the fact that he wasn't abandoning his following. And it just really resonated with me, just in terms of I feel like my lines have also essentially been crossed since everything has sort of, come underway with this virus and everything else. So I left Hawaii and came here to Mexico. But originally 7 years ago, I was here in Tulum and for a yoga retreat. And I was living in New York City at the time. And from the time I went back to New York, I just could not get Mexico out of my mind and the idea of creating a community. And so I spent 4.5 years in Hawaii exploring community, exploring what it's like to live off grid. I absolutely love it. And I've just been researching, doing a lot of, self work, but researching a lot as well on just what the best, way to put a community together is. And so I'm really grateful for Freedom Cells. And I have connected with several people through the site that have messaged me. And we've had some really great conversations. But just to briefly give, I guess, what my thoughts are around establishing a community. I'm definitely looking to collaborate and to find tribe that are really wanting to unplug. And I'm here in Mexico now, but it doesn't mean that that's my absolute end all be all landing place. I'm definitely a gypsy at heart. So I just am looking to completely unplug and just, the reality that you think in your mind is the reality that you create. And as soon as you're able to unplug and get away from the system and from all the technology that does not serve you, because obviously there's technology that does serve us, you get to create your own freedom and your own sense of reality just by the sanctuary that you create. And so that's what I'm looking to create, but it's something that it's a big idea. It's a big grand idea, but I also feel like it has a big use. I'm an artist first and foremost. I have a heavy passion for health and wellness as well. And Max is correct. All of us are suffering from childhood trauma, that we all need a place to be able to deal with it and come to terms with it. And so I'm looking to create a community where there are people living on a nice sized property, piece of land, where there's one sort of center that is geared towards education, which is non-schooling education that our children really do need, and healing, health and wellness, and arts. One place where you can go and take a dance class or an art ceramics class, or take a yoga teacher training, get some really great food that's grown on the land, and get some healing treatments as well. Anything from any alternative modalities and workshops. And so it's an education center for children all the way up to adults, because ultimately we have to keep learning, we have to keep growing. And so this is what I'm looking to create. My freedom cell is called Elevate, ELIV, and the number 8. I'm in Oaxaca right now, in a little village just outside of the center city. So I'm loving it here. And I would love to just connect with more people that are either already here in Mexico, wanting to come to Mexico, or like I said, I'm open to other locations as well. I know there's ghost cities in Spain that you can buy a whole, ghosted town and do with it what you want. You also get dual citizenship, from what I understand, by purchasing something in Spain. So I'm definitely open to other ideas, but mainly with the Freedom Cell concept that I totally resonate with is I'm only one person, and I only know my levels of passion and expertise. And so therefore I don't have all the answers. And that's why I really am extremely passionate about finding the tribe that, you know, can fill in all the gaps that I don't know how to do and everyone else doesn't know how to do. And that's what creates that true community, 100%, with a spiritual background and open, nonviolent communication. Absolutely. So thank you, you guys. Thank you, John, and to Derek as well for doing this, and to all of you for being here. And we're already starting a community. And so I'm just really excited to see what happens from all of this. But if anyone is interested in anything that I've said, please reach out to me on Freedom Cells. I'd be really happy to connect with you. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you so much, Raina, and thanks for sharing what you're all about. So yeah, I am feeling super inspired. All right, let's go to Andy real quick, and then we're already 15 minutes over, so we'll wrap the call up. Andy, you just put your hand up. Hey man, how are you? Oh, I think you need, there you go. Wait, go ahead and click unmute. Should be able to now. Oh, there we go. There we go.
All right, you got me?
Yep, we got you. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks. Thanks for your time, everybody. I just joined yesterday. I'm a little late to this party of like waking up.
We're just getting started.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a couple of years now where like, you know, I've been really interested in 9/11 truth and everything like that, but I was a drug addict for like 10 years. I'm up in like Monadnock area, like right on the Mass New Hampshire border. I was addicted to oxys, heroin, got like real bent out on Suboxone, trying to recover from that, and then gabapentin, all these things, and now I've finally been clean for a while, but I'm so overwhelmed by this, like just being steeped in truth and questioning things like all of us do. I try to have these conversations of waking others, and like I literally feel like I'm on an island. I have family members that, like, because they're pro-vaccine and I'm not, based on all the research I've done, and just, you know, I watched that Vax documentary. That was like a catalyst for getting into like truth on vaccines and just questioning things, right? And I have a real hard. I've been having a hard time lately with this. Like, I'm just so overwhelmed. Like, I know that I still have a shitload of research that I need to engage in. But it's like, we're up against the clock here. It's like, should we, obviously, like, we should be prioritizing certain things in terms of like waking others. Like, coronavirus is like the one thing, right? That they're using to drive this agenda, like warp speed, you know. And I just wanted to share a little bit about myself. I'm in the Boston area. I've reached out to a couple of members in the chat, gonna try and connect with some people offline, but like my ultimate goal is to like, I want to create a podcast because like I heard Max talking about healing earlier, and the only thing that ever like helped me personally, I mean, I did experiment with magic mushrooms. They've probably been the single largest and greatest contribution to my healing, hands down over, you know, like antidepressants or benzodiazepines or anything like that. I mean, anything pharmaceutically related I've tried, and you know, it just doesn't work. Period. You know, if you're not willing to like put in the work and be honest. I was actually an Uber driver for a couple of years, and you know, the money was terrible, but I actually got a lot of my healing done just in that job. Like, I was actually talking more than the customers, you know, like they were probably like, when's this guy gonna shut up, you know? But for me, I mean, I just, that was the ultimate healing, was like, you stop lying to yourself, and you know, you're open and honest, and you know, that's how you get past all that trauma and pain. It's difficult, it hurts, but you know, it's better than avoiding it, because I have friends and family that are still fully steeped in addiction, because in the Monadnock area, I don't know for those of you who are familiar with the opioid epidemic at all, but it was one of the key hubs. You know, there's nothing to do around here, and you know, for me now, I'm a nature guy. So now it's like the perfect place for me to be in. But I just wasn't before this. I was just trapped, you know, like shitty job. Like I'm working for a corporate entity right now, CVS Health of all things, right? You want to talk about a big ball of irony, addicted to pills, and here we are working for CVS, you know. It's like, and I'm having a total crisis of conscience on that. But I just wanted to share and say thank you to all you guys. I know, you know, we try to wake others. It's just, it seems like it's just so overwhelming sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Well, thanks for being a part of the community. And just want to say I'm really proud of you that you overcame that. I know that's a struggle for a lot of people, and to be on the other side of it's a really big deal. So keep it
Thanks
up,
a lot,
man.
John.
And we're all here.
Thank you.
We're all here for you if you need support in any way. I'm involved in that space. I sell kratom. That's what I do for a living, and that's something that's really helped a lot of people to overcome opioid dependency and even heroin and stuff. So I also have a recovery support group. I don't know if you're on Telegram, you could look me up, and I'd love to link you in with that. It's just a network where people are there to support each other and talk about their struggles and stuff. And that's something that we can do here as well. And I quote unquote woke up back in 2002 when I caught a Alex Jones documentary on 9/11 on cable access. He's here from Austin. And it was very overwhelming for quite some time. And there's just a huge onslaught of information. And that was 20 years ago. Fast forward to today, it's really the same kind of thing going on. And I've heard some talks about some mentions of urgency, and you know, the technocratic state is growing, and we're going to reach a point where we can't do anything. It's all going to be illegal and stuff. And I just want everyone maybe to pause for a moment and to breathe and to recognize that this is an eternal struggle, both an eternal struggle externally, but it's also an internal struggle that we as human beings have been having go on for forever, right? There's always been bad actors and good people trying to overcome that. And I think it's important to be patient with ourselves. And more important than waking up to all the tyranny and the New World Order and the vaccine agenda and all what they're doing with COVID is waking up, I think, spiritually and improving ourselves and finding that peace and balance. And when we find that, then it's easier for us to consume more of what's going on with the problem. And then on that same token, like, what's more important than understanding the problem is what we can do to create a better alternative, right? And a better world for ourselves and for future generations to grow up where it's not a trauma-based society, basically. And so I just wanted to offer that up. Like, if it is overwhelming, it's okay to pull back, you know, and it's okay to not wake everybody up and to dig deep if it's starting to get a little too dark and scary, you know. And I think you already got the answer yourself when saying that you love nature, you know. Like, there's no better thing to do than to go out and be in nature and just be at peace with all that stuff, man. So I just want to welcome you to the group and thank you for joining us, man.
Thanks a lot, John. I look forward to collaborating with a lot of people. I see a lot of people have similar messages and struggles, and you know, that's what I'm trying to do. I think that's a good bridge, honestly, is like honesty, you know, is like, instead of like you know, getting into these topics like with people who you don't really know or even your family members. I mean, it's like build that bridge through other, you know, other topics or just talking about life, and then trying to get there, you know, hopefully their guard gets down a little bit. You build that interpersonal connection. But it's just like, I'm getting text messages from my mom saying how great Bill Gates is, you know, like random text messages from my mother. It's like, you know, and then I send her other information that shows something that paints a different story, and it's like, or paints a different picture. And she's just like, I mean, some of my family literally is like, just completely, they've blocked me on every social media or any platform. That I can't go hang out with their kids anymore. Like it is absolutely just astonishing to me, like how it's really just unfortunate how scared people have become because of what some lying government and media has told them. It's mind blowing.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, thanks for joining us. And when it
Thank
comes
you.
to the family, like sometimes it's okay just to let it be and just to let them be in their blissful ignorance, and if people aren't ready to hear something, they're not going to hear it, until they're ready themselves. And if it's causing harm in the relationship, maybe it's just not the time. I have a feeling sooner or later most people are going to see what's going on for what it is, because it's just getting more and more blatantly obvious. But until then, just focus on the connection that you guys can have and beyond all that stuff.
Yeah.
But okay, cool. All right, Andy and everyone, man, we're going to wrap up here, and I want to encourage everyone again to join these groups. This is how we can stay connected. If you're not on the freedomcells.org, please join that. The Telegram chat will be a great place for just a constant flow of communication and stuff, and for us to build that familiarity and comfort and trust with one another. And I just want to share that I am super duper grateful and inspired at what's taking place with this movement and being a part of all this. This was just an idea back in 2015. I shared it here and there, did a podcast, did a speech or two, and then kind of went dormant. I focused inward. I focused on my life. I had 2 kids. I focused on entrepreneurship and digging myself out of poverty. And then Derek Rose really just took the idea and ran with it. And I've been talking about how we can build our own alternative society. And back then it was just talk, and to see that we're actually doing it. And it's not just about some sort of political freedom. It's about a whole health and wellness, spiritual freedom as well. So I'm super honored to be on this journey with you guys. And I look forward to what we can create in the next 5 years. Like, just imagine if all of us continue on this journey, on this growth, on this evolution, and we're not just going it alone, but we're organizing and networking with like-minded people, and we're bringing people along, and we're lifting one another up. There's really no stopping us as we continue on. So thank you everyone for joining us. We're going to do another international conference call. You'll definitely hear about it. And again, I don't know if this chat goes away. I wish it would be saved, but be sure you join the Telegram groups. You can always find out most of us on freedomcells.org. And yeah, everybody be good to one another. Love yourself. Stay free. And until we chat again, thanks everybody. Bye. Peace. Peace.